spoilers ahead.
If you've seen any of my other videos, you're probably already aware this isn't the kind of movie I usually review, and it's not the environment I normally review it in. So if this is a problem for you, please feel free to click away and come back for the next one, and I will not be angry. Otherwise, why not come join me as I have myself a quick little whinge. Like lots of other people, I grew up watching the Munsters. It was full of genuinely hilarious, intelligent humor that constantly pointed out it was cool if your family wasn't like other families. Weird was good, ugly was beautiful, and imperfect was perfection. After moving to a new country at a very young age, away from my own family, I even imagined my grandfather looked like Grandpa Munster. I didn't do it on purpose. I suppose it was just something my young brain did to fill in the empty space next to my own grandfather's faded image. When you grow up with something you relate to that much, it's only natural you're going to be protective of it. Rob Zombie said he was a lifelong fan of the original series, and apparently he'd been trying to get this film developed for over 20 years. So I suppose before we get into the plot, my only question to you, Mr. Zombie, is why the hell you did this to them?
The plot.
The movie opens with the great Richard Brake and Jorge Garcia doing a Frankenstein knockoff. They try stealing the requisite corpse of the world's greatest pianist, but the coffin is empty. Then, much to their surprise, they learn the body's walking around zombified in a $10 Halloween costume from Walmart, complete with oversized floppy rubber hands. Then they take selfies with the body and drag it back to the lab. Elsewhere, the Count, soon-to-be Grandpa Munster, played by Daniel Roebuck, rises from his coffin in a manner we've already seen satirized in a number of other horror comedies. And then we meet Sherry Moon Zombie's impersonation of the original Lily Munster done masterfully by Yvonne DiCarlo. Not Lily's looking for romance and she's out on a date with Nosferatu trying to find it. Grandpa Munster's son Lester, played by Thomas Boykin, is summoned by Zoya Krupp, played by Catherine Schell. Lester apparently owes her money, so he phones his dad and tries to convince him to let Zoya convert his castle into a casino/theme park. But Grandpa says no. Back on the Tinder date, Nosferatu tries enticing Not Lily into his house for a nightcap with a bit of a rave. But Lily says no too. Grandpa sees on TV that a local comedian named Shecky Von Rathbone has died, and his death happened hours after the death of his brother, Shelley Von Rathbone, the smartest man on earth. On hearing the news, Richard Brake and Jorge plot to steal the brain, but wouldn't you know it, Jorge steals the wrong one as per someone else's storyline. Meanwhile, Not Lily Munster's pining for a love she fears she may never find. So she does a few Rob Zombie poses before she climbs into her bed, still loveless. And after Brake eventually pumps electric life back into the dead body, he appears on Good Morning Transylvania to present his creation to the world. Being the wrong brain, the creature tries reenacting one of his comedy routines, despite it being rotten. When Not Lily sees it, she falls dead over heels for him in front of a heart-filled projection. So she sets her sights on meeting him. And meet him she does, when he's fronting his punk band, the Punk Rods. The creature, who's now going by Herman, is apparently and conveniently unhappy and unfulfilled without true love in his own life. So when Not Lily shows up at his door to ask him for dinner, he falls dead over heels for her in front of the exact same heart-filled projection. The next night he arrives at the castle and rips off a joke from Young Frankenstein, and that makes me angry. Then he sees his beloved Not Lily at the top of a staircase next to the terribly placed dry ice dispenser. They all sit down for the cringiest dinner imaginable before Herman and Not Lily head out for a romantic stroll in the graveyard, where they declare their undying love for each other with an even cringier rendition of I Got You Babe that continues for more than 2 whole minutes, even though neither of them can sing. In fact, you pay close attention, you're actually watching Sherry Moon Zombie impersonating Yvonne DiCarlo impersonating Cher. Then, Herman proposes and Not Lily says yes. On their wedding day, Lester convinces Herman to sign away the castle without knowing he's signing away the castle by proposing they become business partners. And when Zoya pays him for his treachery, he pisses off to Las Vegas with his winnings. The newlyweds head off to Paris for their honeymoon and nothing continues to happen there. And while they're gone, Zoya Krupp sends a letter to Grandpa informing him he's being evicted from his own castle. So they call Elvira, the real estate agent, to set them up with a home in Hollywood, California, so Herman can become a star. They arrive on Halloween and the home they find is just perfect. And so's the neighborhood, or so they thought, until they see it without all the Halloween costumes and decorations. But right as they're planning on leaving, Lester returns with winnings from Las Vegas. And Herman's half makes them rich. So their problems are all solved. And at least they're happy at the end of this movie. There was a bit of effort put into the color scheme, I suspect to compensate for fans of the Munsters expecting it to be shot in black and white. And although each of the actors failed to entertain me, they did all convince me they were trying their hardest. I like Jeff Daniel Phillips. I like Sherry Moon Zombie in her limited capacity as an actress. I also like Daniel Roebuck. And I'm sure all three of them had headaches at the end of each day of shooting from all the exaggeration Rob forced on them. So in that sense, I can't fault a single person on screen for doing what Rob told them to do. And finally, what a lovely surprise to hear Dee Wallace's voice announcing the Good Morning Transylvania show. If you're a horror fan and I have to explain why this was cool, you're not really a horror fan.
The sharp bits.
There's so much confusion here, I don't even know where to start. Everything looked cheap and rushed and amateur. Even the prosthetics are pathetic rubber masks. And Herman's scars look like a school project close-up. Maybe Rob overlooked this given his usual grainier aesthetic would have covered it up. And for a supposed comedy, I didn't laugh a single time. Some of the jokes were even repeated by different characters. The humor was clearly trying to replicate the original series tone, but Rob can't do regular humor, never mind something as nuanced as this. Every novelty in this movie wears off in the first 5 minutes, from the exaggerated impersonations of much better actors to the intentional cheesiness and even the overused green light bulb. And as per Rob Zombie's usual bag of tricks, he cuts away to other great TV shows and movies on tiny televisions, but there's zero context in this newest rehashing. Instead of accenting his own work, everything he cuts away to reminds you of how much better they were than this movie is. It's like he's saying, I'm trying to replicate these things, but all I could manage was this. And a big one, nobody will ever replicate the legend of Fred Gwynne. This alone should have stopped Rob Zombie from picking this project up. As much as I like Jeff Daniel Phillips, you're out of your depth on this one then. And finally, this movie is way too long. With a runtime of about 1:49, it felt like it was 3 hours. This is a feature-length movie with no story, no main protagonist, no character arcs, no suspense, no tension, no climax, and no fun. Even this highly condensed summary I've written feels way too long as I'm recording it. So, should you watch Rob Zombie desecrate the grave of one of my favorite childhood favorites, or should you leave the legacy of one of the best horror-based comedy series where it was, resting peacefully in the hearts of all of its fans? As a horror fan, I will continue to watch Rob Zombie's movies as long as he continues to make them, because that's what we horror fans are like. You keep making them, we keep watching them regardless of how shit they are apparently. But I won't forgive him for putting his name all over a project he never should have touched. This movie is neither Rob Zombie nor the Munsters, so why bother? Until next time, folks, when I promise you I will be happy again. It's me, Johnny, from that thing you just watched. If you enjoyed it, go down there and smash me in the face to subscribe. And if you want to watch another thing, there's one right there. Do it!